Good evening, everybody. And if you're watching this back on repeat, we just hope you haven't missed the demonstration, because this is all about the demo that's happening when, Simon?
It's on Saturday, this Saturday, which is the 22nd of August, 2020. We're looking at forming up around about between 11 and midday at the BBC studios in Nottingham, just to get noticed.
Excellent.
And then we're going to walk from there to the Brian Clough Memorial in Market Square. Speeches will then be held between 1 o'clock PM and 3 o'clock in the PM. So 2 hours, and we've got lots of speakers at the moment. Well, I can cover those in a minute.
Yeah. So what's the idea behind this demo? So I mean, obviously it's veterans. That's why we're involved. It's mainly a veterans run, veterans organised event. What's the main themes that you're going to be looking at? Right.
The main thing that started all this in the first place was the fact that Dean Cumberpatch, who everybody knows and loves, or not, if they don't, he doesn't care. Just like I don't care if they don't like me.
I know the feeling.
You don't care if they don't like you.
Exactly.
His granddaughter has been going through some issues with social services, so that's the main reason why it's being held in Nottingham. In addition to that, BLM, of course, have started throwing stuff out saying that far-right groups are appearing in Nottingham on the 22nd of August 2020. So let's get all our BLM supporters to go out there and force and combat their demonstration. Well, yeah, it's all a waste of bloody time, because everything BLM I see is a left-wing organisation. Everything that we're doing is for the good, the benefit of our country, our women, our children, to bring everything back into line. So, yeah, you know, why they would want to go against us on that, I don't know. But
I think it's simply, Simon, because they're hardcore communists masquerading as a black civil rights movement, and they're basically, they want to, you know, put us back into the same sort of state that communist Russia was in 70 years ago, and that's, you know, that's their fantasy. And when you look at the roots of them, their stand up to racism, Muslim Council of Britain, Socialist Workers' Party, they're all involved in all this. So it's just to me, what's happening with BLM in the UK is just a complete rebranding of stand up to racism and Antifa almost joining together. And of course, what they're trying to do is hoodwink well-meaning members of the black community into thinking that they really care about civil rights for black people, when they don't. All they care about is a communist revolution and using anybody they can as their foot soldiers. So I think they'll have a go at anyone that's demonstrating. But the fact they're demonstrating against veterans is going to make them look very stupid, since though the regiment I was in, there was a large number of black lads and Asian lads served in my regiment, because we were a West Yorkshire regiment, you know.
I couldn't agree more, Richard. You know, at the end of the day, they're turning around and saying that there's the street commandos that are turning up, so they've tarred them with a far right brush. Well, yeah. Myself and Dean, we've had conversations with the leader of the street commandos. They're not a far right organisation. They tend to wear black when they're out on protests. Well, so do BLM, and so do the Black Panthers. Now, they draw the line at putting body armour and everything else on. BLM and the Black Panthers don't. So who is far right in all this? You know, the whole thing's bloody pathetic. They've had a go at DFLA. They're saying DFLA are now right wing. Well, DFLA, we've been involved with the DFLA when it first
beginning. At the very beginning. I mean, we were there at the first meeting. You know,
they're all colours, they're all nationalities, they all football.
At the first meeting of the DFLA, the man sitting directly to my right was a black veteran and a football fan. Right, I'm not going to name all, obviously, but that was the very first meeting. On the FLA march in 2017, Mike Howell was one of the main speakers.
Correct.
Ex-police officer, veteran.
Mike Howell is one of my bestest buddies. We were in Germany together in the early 80s when he was with RGJ, Clifton Barracks, Minden. And I was in the 4 Armored Transport Regiment in St George's Barracks, Minden. He came out there. He's done time with the Met. He's done time with the prison service. He's
very heavily involved with the FLA, you know, and obviously the DFLA, and very well respected by that group. It's a
fan of the DFLA. He does speeches on behalf of the DFLA, just like he has for us vets. So how these people can turn around and tar us as being far right when they're far left, and I have to remind them again, Richard, it's the far left, which are the Nazis,
National Socialist,
socialist,
exactly,
far left,
exactly. And what they're trying to do, Simon, and this is where I would say to any of our black and ethnic minority friends who are watching these podcasts, and you know, I know a lot of the lads do watch these podcasts. Who's been played here? Because who benefits from identity politics? Nobody benefits from it. It leads to a breakdown of civil society. And it's like when I was speaking to Ricky Doolan the other day, because we've got the same problem with the FNATs on the white supremacist side. They're just mirror images of each other. Black Lives Matter and the white supremacists are mirror images of each other, because I always say, and I don't know how it's become a racist saying, but apparently it is. I say, no, all lives matter. I don't give a toss what colour your skin is. I genuinely don't care. At the end of the day, I've got a suntan at the minute. In the middle of winter, I'll be looking as pale as Casper the Ghost. Your skin colour is all to do skin pigmentation. People need to grow up and stop talking about what colour you are, what racial background you are. I don't give a shit what racial background you come from. It doesn't bother me in the least. I just don't care about it. Rant over.
Right. 100% right. And it annoys me because you and I are veterans. Everybody knows that we're veterans. Everybody that matters anyway.
Yeah.
You know, within the movement, they know that we're veterans. And we've been good friends now, Richard, for over 3 years.
Yeah.
Right? And we jumped on this bandwagon and we're pushing things along. Whereas there's a lot of people sat there that mouth off behind their keyboards.
Yeah.
They do absolutely nothing. But they think they can do better. Now, you know, I'm going to give a little call out to those. If Mrs. Noakes, whoever the hell you are, if you think you can do better, then please come out and do it. If you want to form another group of elitist people to sort out all the issues that we've got, bring them out. And I'll be more than happy to stand by your side, give you any guidance. But remember this isn't just about doing protests. This isn't about being loud on Facebook. This is about doing your research. This is knowing all the different treaties and what they mean. How all the treaties cross-fertilise with the other treaties. And if one treaty fails, how you have to then look at the other treaty and say, well, that treaty now is scuppered us because we've already seen through that one, etc. So it's not a matter of forming another group of loads of people, an elitist group, as you put it. I bet you're 77 Brigade, Mrs. Noakes. I bet you are. Well, if you are 77 Brigade, we've seen through you. So go away. Just like go away.
I've had the same problem with certain individuals. I'm not going to name them. I want to spare them their blushes. But do you know what I call them, Simon? I call them jellyfish. Because
individuals.
They've got a bit of a sting. They've got a bit of a sting that's an annoyance. It's not going to kill anyone unless it's a box jellyfish. But there's no box jellyfish in England. They've got a bit of a sting, but they've got absolutely no backbone and they've got no brain, and they float about trying to make themselves relevant, and they're totally irrelevant. And that's why know something, Simon? I won't even say their name. I won't even say their names publicly because I don't want to give them the oxygen of publicity by naming them. But they know who they are. And do you know what happens to jellyfish? When you're walking along the beach, you see a jellyfish, you jump on it and you squish it, and then it's a dead jellyfish. And these people are jellyfish. They've got no backbone. They've got no brain. They've got a little bit of a sting.
Well, just to clear up, all those lefties, all those 77 Brigade personnel, all those people who think they know better than us, the jellyfish population around the British Isles is actually being killed by all you leftist people that want to wear little masks to save you from a disease that doesn't even exist, to be fair. Enough said on that.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's what we'll start calling these these naysayers and these people that stand in the sidelines. But again, like you say, they've made a whole lot of noise. They've banged a whole lot of tins. They've never sat down and spoke to people that can influence and make a difference. They've never achieved anything either in their lives or in the movement. And I think we should just call them jellyfish from now on, and that's what we'll. Maybe it's jelly babies. Maybe it's. I'll tell you an interesting story. Jelly babies. I'll tell you an interesting story about jelly babies, Sam. One of my mates got his leg blown off in Belfast, and the boys thought it'd be quite a nice thing to buy him a box of jelly babies. You know the way you used to get those nice little boxes of Maynard's jelly babies. So they bought him this box of jelly babies, and basically he was sitting there in his hospital bed with this box of jelly babies. His mother came across to Belfast to visit him in hospital, and she opened the box of jelly babies, and to her horror, one leg had been sawn off every single one of the jelly babies in the box. It caused a little bit of a scandal, but that's just squaddy humour, isn't it, Simon? You know what I mean?
The guy that I served with, and I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning his name, when I was in the tank transporter role, there was a guy, same rank as me, we were both full corporals, Ian Greenshields. Now, this guy worked hard. When everybody else was sort of knocked off at the end of a drag, which was taking tanks from A to B, normally to the ranges or out of base repair workshops, we would all be sort of diving off to the bar and then worrying about getting a shower afterwards. Ian Greenshields would have been working on his truck, then come to the bar and then gone for a shower. But he had this fetish about jelly babies. And Ian Greenshields, being an expert climber, if he came into your room of a night time and said, jelly babies, you needed jelly babies in your locker or somewhere to feed him. Because if you didn't, you had a figure of 8 wrapped round your feet and out the window you were going, and you were left dangling until somebody in the guard come and found you.
Yeah.
So everybody at 617 Tank Transporter Squadron, RCT as it was, knew to have jelly babies standing by. Which squadron he served with, 16, 3, 617 or 414 troop, as it was. You had to have jelly babies.
They all had jelly babies. See, there's something about jelly babies. Maybe it's because they're all very regimented and they all look the same. But yeah, but the poor mother of this lad was shocked when she saw these one-legged jelly babies and her son sitting there in a hospital bed with one leg blown off. But again, it's squaddy humour and that's it. So anyway, back to the demonstration. So we've got the left doing what they usually do, slandering us, opposing us, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, slandering us. We've spoken to the police liaison team in Nottingham.
Yep.
A lady called Jane. Mm-hmm. And she understands completely where we're coming from. The police in Nottingham, by all accounts, are completely on side with us. They know that there is a bit of a threat coming from the left. And all they've asked us is that we don't tangle with the left, anybody that comes up and is confrontational, that we ignore them as far as we possibly can ignore them, and they'll deal with it. Now, we're just hoping that that is the case. Now, we're quite experienced in all this, Richard. We've come across this over the past 3 years or so. And when the police say they're going to take care of things, they generally do, don't they?
Yeah.
So they're on side with us. They're a bit offside at the moment with the left because of the mainly because of the threats that they're putting out over social media. So the left are basically stitching themselves up anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm all for that. You know, at the end of the day, if they really do want to take all these far right groups on, which are the veterans, according to them, the DFLA, according to them, the street commandos, according to them, then I wish them luck. And bearing in mind that you need 3-to-1 superiority to win a decent battle, they better bring at least 1 million. Because if they don't bring the 1 million, I think they're in deep doggy doo-doos. Yeah. They're not going to manage even to speak, let alone.
Well, I mean, the last demonstration I was on, the left tried to attack us, and the police liaison came up to me and said, "Can you calm things down a bit? These left-wing students that are trying to attack you are getting a bit scared now." So that's the measure of these people. I mean, most of them are privileged middle-class students who like to put bandanas around their faces and not shower for about 3 months. So, I'm not too worried about it. I think we've had a few issues with the police where they haven't really helped us a huge amount, but then there's been other issues where they've been absolutely fantastic. It just depends a lot on what the commander on the ground and who's doing what. But I think in somewhere like Nottingham, if you're talking to them, I'm sure everything will be 100% fine. At the end of the day, look, we're not like these criminals. We support the police. We want a strong, robust police force that deals with criminals. Not that tries to investigate Twitter feeds.
We're all in the same line of business.
Exactly.
And they know that, we know the police quite well in the fact that there's a large proportion of the police all over the country that are ex-military. We know that there's only 120,000 police over the 4 nations that make up the United Kingdom. Yep. So that means that they can only successfully take on a crowd of 40,000? And they know that we turn out in 75,000 back in London?
In October 2017, we'd 70,000 in the centre of London. And think about that demo, Simon, because this is the so-called racist FLA as it was, and then it morphed into DFLA. But we walked past Whitehall, and they were actually, again, the left were attacking a black veteran.
That's right.
And abusing him, and again, and who basically calmed things down. The veterans got involved and calmed things down, along with some of the top faces from the football firms.
That's right.
So I've always said the myth, the nonsense about calling veterans or the FLA, DFLA, or any of the football people, or in fact Tommy's people as well, because Tommy's had this for years as well. The racist bone in his body, and he gets exactly the same sort of hassle. And it's just
on that same demonstration there, and fair play to Tommy, because it was Tommy that in lots of ways calmed what could have been a dodgy situation right down. Yeah, because there was the BBC heading towards this 3-minute bit of trouble.
Yeah,
that was created and orchestrated by the left. Yeah, and it was Tommy that spoke to the BBC. Do you remember them? The BBC.
That's right.
Yeah. They were big during the Second World War. They were big. Everybody got their
great then. They were great during the Second World War.
Whereas now you get fake information from the BBC, don't you?
You just get propaganda. You get communist propaganda.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they've taken over from Lord Haw. So when you had Lord Haw saying this is London calling, and he give his propaganda speech, that's what the BBC actually do now, and they do it from Portland Place. Yeah, the same building there in London.
Exactly.
Anyway,
Chris Platt just made a point about what happened in London. Yeah. The last demo that we did before the last one that we did was a couple of weeks ago, but the last one we did, which believe it or not was August 2019, the last major one we did, and again the police completely stitched us up. They lied to us and they led Antifa to within 200 yards, and it went horribly wrong for the police and for Antifa. And we don't want that. We want everything to be peaceful, and but I think the reality is,
I think they're a bit like us. They poke and they prod and they test the water to see what might happen. So they're looking to see where their boundaries are. They're looking to see where our boundaries are. And I think over the sort of 3+ years since that concert bombing in Manchester, I think we've sort of grown a bit of a mutual respect. I think they know how far they can push us, which is a long, long way, and we know how far we can push them. But they know that we'll never cross that line. So we'll always go up to a line, but we'll never cross it. I think. But as a result of that, though, they like to be on side. It was like London on the 1st of August. I popped around and I spoke to every single little group of police officers around Parliament Square there. Had a little chat with them, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If it was police liaison, a lot longer. Yeah. Every single one of them on side. We know we haven't got to worry about because you're here, the veterans are here, you're self-policing. And as soon as they know that the veterans are there, they do leave us alone, don't they?
They do. I mean, and I think different demonstrations have different sort of vibes. I mean, look, this demonstration is basically about kids that are getting groomed. It's about veterans that are getting falsely prosecuted. It's about Commonwealth veterans who are not being allowed. I mean, let's talk about this, Simon. You mentioned it before we came on air. I'll just set the scene. Commonwealth veterans are basically being denied British citizenship. They've served the country. Some of them have served in war zones. Some of them have served in frontline infantry regiments, so they're actually on the front line. Some of them even served in special forces. And that after they finish their service, they're being denied visas, or not denied, having to pay for visas for their whole families. Now, to me, if somebody has served in the British Army to fight for and defend our country, they should be given automatic citizenship immediately. And I tell you what they can do: they can stop housing these invaders in hotels up and down the country, and start giving these Commonwealth veterans citizenship immediately without them having to jump through a whole lot of hoops like the Gurkhas did. And thankfully, the Gurkhas thing, I think, is resolved now. They need to do it now. Our Commonwealth veterans need to be looked after. Think about the guy that got the VC for Harry. Wasn't he a Commonwealth soldier, Simon?
Yeah, I think he was. Yes.
I think he's from Grenada or somewhere like that, somewhere in the Caribbean.
That's right.
So and again, because
we've obviously had this issue now for decades with Gurkha soldiers, and Gurkha soldiers' families. So they come from the southern tip of India. They come all the way up to the UK. It takes them 2 days, perhaps, to walk to a recruiting office, Richard.
Yeah.
If they're turned down at that recruiting office, they won't walk the 2 days back because it brings shame upon their village.
That's right.
So they'll disappear off into the ether somewhere in the Indian subcontinent, probably never ever to be seen again. Exactly. So it gives them a massive amount of kudos, a massive amount of respect. It gives the family, it gives the village a huge amount of respect if they're accepted into the British Army. Now, it works the same with other Commonwealth soldiers. So when you've got Fijian soldiers and you've got soldiers coming in from Grenada, it's no different to having soldiers coming in, you know, and when I say soldiers, I mean soldiers, sailors and airmen of both sexes. It's no different to Canadian people wanting to join the British Army. It's no different to Australians wanting to join the Brits. It's no different to anybody. But it seems when it comes to our government, they see it in a slightly different way. So where the Gurkhas have had to fight for Gurkha rights for years, and Joanna Lumley got on the case and had a really, really successful campaign and got them lots and lots of rights, it only really affected people that joined after a certain date. So all those that joined prior to that, they're still left with a cut down pension compared to ours. It's about 1/6 of a pension. So if we have, say we had a corporal did serve 22 years and he got £600 every month after that as a pension, the equivalent, if they're Gurkha, would only get £100 every month. And the British government seems to think that that's okay. They're not guaranteed a passport. They're not guaranteed housing, but then no veteran is guaranteed housing anyway. They're not guaranteed specific benefits, etc., etc. Well, now, of course, you've got people like the Fijians and whatnot who come in, they fight tooth and nail. Now, these are tough people. Yeah, they've had a tough. They were born into a tough place. They've had a tough upbringing. They've joined the British Army because they want to do something with their life, and they want to give something, if you like, to the motherland. Well, at the end of their career, it doesn't matter whether they serve 4 years, 5 years, 10, 15, 22 years. If they then want to settle in the UK, the government says, oh, well, you have to apply for a visa, and it's going to cost you £2,500 for that visa. So if that's now a family of 4, because you got a Fijian man who's retiring from the military, he's married to a Fijian woman, let's say, and then he has 2 kids, and those 2 kids are born in the UK. He has to apply now for 1, 2, 3, 4 visas, even though 2 of those people were born in the UK. But because they got 2 Fijian parents, well, that scuppers them. Now let's put a little angle on that. Fijian soldier marries a British woman. They have 2 kids. Well, that makes a vast amount of difference now, Richard, because he only has to pay £2,500 for himself, £2,500 for his 2 kids, and the woman gets to stay because she's British. So it's £7,500. Where's the justice in that?
Exactly.
We've got over 200 people a day coming across the water from France.
I was just going to say that, Simon. Do you know something? Do you know it's actually easier for somebody to invade our country that has never given anything to? And let's be honest, this is called immigration. It's not immigration. It's an invasion. It's as simple as that. And these migrant tourists, as we might call them, come over here. They're put up in 4-star hotels, 5-star hotels. They're given food. They're given lodgings. According to Nigel Farage, they're even taken to Anfield. Now, why anybody would want to go to Anfield anyway, I honestly don't know. But they're taken on a little tour of Anfield, showed around Liverpool football ground. They're given, I think, 40 quid a week spending money. They're fed and watered. They're given a safe accommodation. And they've broken into the country. It'd be like somebody coming up to your house tonight, kicking your front door in, and you making them a cup of tea, giving them a meal, and then giving them a bed for the night. And then on the way out, just saying, by the way, the safe's there, the combination is 666. Go and empty it. Away you go, son. That's what's going on. And
Exactly.
as long as, why can't those resources that are being wasted on migrants that we should actually give them the package holidays they want and charter some of these EasyJet planes that are not doing anything and send them back to France, because they are not refugees, because they've come from a country of safe haven, which is France. That is a safe country. They are not refugees. They are illegal immigrants. They should be treated as illegal immigrants, and they should be booted out the country. The boat should be turned back and not towed into Dover. They should be turned back and towed back into Calais. And if the French don't like it, well, that's just tough. Little Napoleon Macron can say what he wants, but they must not be allowed to come into this country.
Correct. With all that in mind, somebody's just put a message up here. I wouldn't trust a man who fought for a foreign country. Why not fight for your own homeland? Well, just to put that into perspective, anybody that comes out of the Commonwealth, and we're talking about Fijians are part of our Commonwealth.
Yeah.
People from Grenada, Canada, etc., are all part of our Commonwealth. They've got the same head of state.
Yeah.
Her Majesty the Queen is their head of state, the same as it's our head of state. And these are all countries that we once possessed as part of the British Empire, and we have given those people now freedom. We've given them independence, but they remain part of the Commonwealth. And so that's why you have to sort of trust these people to come over. They go through all the stringent checks. They're British in all but sort of, if you like, colour and birthplace.
Exactly. And I mean, I think of the soldiers from the Commonwealth that I served with. I mean, one of my platoon sergeants when I was a section commander was a guy from French Guiana, one of the best soldiers and most patriotic men I'd ever met. Not from French Guiana, it must have been British Guiana, but anyways, he was from that country in South America that we all forget about, that used to be British. And he was one of the best soldiers I ever met. He'd done SAS selection. He was just, honestly, he was just absolutely outstanding. Total patriot, loved this country, and a really, really cool guy. So I'm sorry, Sam 777. I'd rather have him than have some treacherous lefty that hates this country, has never done anything to protect the people of this country. You can adopt a country. When you come to live in a country, if you like that country, you can adopt that country, and you can love that country more than some of the people that were born in the country. There's no doubt about that whatsoever, and we know that for a fact because we've seen it with a lot of Africans coming across here. I think of that guy, Wally Babatunde, who we had on a live stream a few weeks ago, has written a book about British history and how much he loves Britain and why he loves Britain and why it's a great country. So you can come to a country like people do in America, adopt their values, and become a patriot, to that country. It's far more patriotic. Sorry.
It works both ways as well.
Yeah.
Because if you serve 22 years in the British military and you want to work on, because you can still soldier up to 55.
Yeah.
It's that the British military or army specifically says, no, once you hit 40 or 22 years, that's you gone, mate.
Yeah.
But if you want to stay till you're 55, so I retired at 41. If I wanted to stay in the military until 55, I would have either had to apply for extended service, long service, or be recommended for and then accept a commission. But the other option is you can apply to join the Australian military, the Canadian military, the Fijian Defence Force, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Then you can stay till you're 55. So it works both ways, and that's the glory of having these countries of the Commonwealth. If we didn't have the Commonwealth, Christ, we'd be even more undermanned than we are now, and we're already 20,000 undermanned.
And I mean, I think this issue of the Commonwealth, I mean, basically, these soldiers, I mean, look, the reality is we've served with Commonwealth soldiers. We know that I've served with Fijians, I've served with people from the West Indies. you know, and obviously served with people that have even come to the UK as immigrants and have joined the military. There's not a huge number, probably more now than when I was serving, but every single person that I served with was not interested in skin color or where the people came from. They're interested in protecting each other and looking after each other, and that's just the way the military is. And so that's why I have absolutely no time for this idea that you've got to be born in Britain to love Britain. You've got to be.
Ken Dole, after 20 years, he moved from the Australian Royal Australian Corps of Transport, and he came to England, to carry on his career. And at the same time, Kevin Norton moved to Australia to carry on with his career with the Royal Australian Army Ordnance Corps.
Yeah, we the same. But there was a guy. He was the first guy to win the what was that one that it conspicuous gallantry medal? Do you know that one?
Yeah,
like one down from the VC. Well, my mate Mildy, he got that for slotting a few Serbs in somewhere, I don't know, somewhere in former Yugoslavia, and protecting his guys and some civilians. And he got that medal, and he ended up going and he ended up, I think, a major in the Australian Army. So it wasn't that he stopped loving Britain. It was just he went to another Commonwealth country which shares our values. You know, it would be like you going and joining the Canadian Mounted Police, Simon, or something like that. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. You know, it's yeah, exactly. You've still got the same Queen.
And
you know,
to be fair, Richard, like you frequent the Union Jack Club in London, just like I do.
Yeah.
And when you walk into the foyer and through those opening corridors around the reception area there,
yeah,
every photo on the wall is a VC winner. And the amount of VC winners there that are from Australia, Canada, Fiji, Grenada,
India. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, and that's the thing. I mean, you know, this is the whole point. I mean, it's not about where you come from. It's about what you do and what your values are. And that's, you know, to me, that's the key to Britishness. The other thing that we're going to talk about, Simon, on this demonstration is, of course, the situation with Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland veterans. Someone just said they can see you as a Mountie there, Simon. Somebody wants you to get across to
a Mountie.
Put one of those hats on and start riding your horse.
With the King's Troop, Royal Horse Artillery. So they scare me a little bit, horses, because there's no sort of real brakes or anything like that. They mind of their own at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But they train me.
I think the Northern Ireland thing is still ongoing, and we've still got Dennis is still being dragged through the courts out there, isn't he? They're
still being dragged through the courts. He's speaking to his legal team at the moment, and we're trying to come up with something which is a little bit off the wall, which hopefully we'll be able to sort of get out soon. So Northern Ireland vets, they're coming up in conversation on Saturday. During the speech, EU military unification, that's coming up as well.
Yeah.
Because the Lisbon Treaty really holds us over the flames, if you like. So at the end of this year, on the 31st of December this year, if nothing's done about the Lisbon Treaty, we fall under the direct command, control and budget of Brussels. Even though on the 1st of January we're Brexited 100% away. Because
I want to just cut in there, Si. Sorry about that, mate. But I just want to cut in this guy, ex-army Paz. I watched a lot of this guy's videos. I like his videos. But he's just put up, we can do all the demos we like. They won't listen, and not a jot will be changed. I would strongly disagree with that, and I'll tell you why. Because obviously we've been doing demos for what 3 years now, and there's a lot goes on in the background. One of the things about demos is they're a great point for networking, right? So if you get 1,000 people that are all basically like-minded people, and they're all agreeing with what you agree with, you can build a network that basically goes right the way up in goes right the way up and down the country, and can do all sorts of work in all sorts of different fields as well. I mean, we've got stuff going on with grooming, we've got stuff going on in Northern Ireland, we've got stuff going on about the Islamization, we've got stuff going on about all these different issues, we've got stuff going on about PTSD. In fact, we're meeting with someone on Saturday about the grooming. We're meeting with someone on Saturday, hopefully, about the actually the glamping. But well done, ex-army pals, you just popped something in my head. The glamping.
Right, there's a woman in called Jo. I don't know her second name. Lives down in Bristol.
Joy. That Joy in Bristol.
I don't know. I got told Jo, but she was trying to get hold of me yesterday.
I spoke to her. I spoke to her
down through voice. I will definitely get back to you, Jo, if you're here watching. Yesterday and today, to a large extent, it's turned into a bit of madness because of what's coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, it's always the way. It's always the way.
Yeah, once Saturday's over with, I'll be able to sort of throw heart and soul into something new.
Well, basically, what they're doing, Simon, and I think they've been doing it already, is offering a safe place for veterans to go that got PTSD, and basically they can get round the this sort of old campfire. They can have a few beers, and obviously if we meet Joy, if she's coming up to Nottingham on Saturday, we can again do some of this networking and sit down and chat about what she's doing. But she's basically what she's doing. You know yourself, Si. What we've actually done through Veterans Against Terrorism, and then obviously all the other veterans groups that have come together as a result of that, is we've built bonds and friendships that actually transcend even what we had when we were serving. Because not only have we got the common background of service, but we've got a common cause because we all believe the same things and the same ideology. And ex-army Paz, if you can get along to one of those demos, get along, come and meet us, because it would be great to just widen that network out. And I think that's a really there we go. Kaz has just told us the lady's called Jo. And
I'll speak to Jo,
Jo, and I think it's fantastic what they're doing. And obviously it's gonna need, like everything, it needs funded. I mean, the big problem. There's so much we
can sort that through the network, because we've had similar groups that have been set up for not glamping, but just common old garden camping. And what started off as sort of a 1 day a week type sort of thing where vets could pop along has turned into pretty much 24/7, 365. And I know it's just trying to think of the name of the group now. Is it QMRG, something like that? I'll look it up anyway. But we'll be able to sort of see what the pitfalls were there, how they managed to raise funds for it in the end and make it work. And then, as you've just said there, Richard, you network between the rest. So if you've got 3 or 4 groups that are doing a similar thing, and one is full up and the other one's just getting off the ground, well, it could be that one feeds personnel to the other one, and then suddenly they all sort of bounce up. They're all sort of singing off the same song sheet, etc., etc., etc. But I'll phone Jo tomorrow and try and nail this down, because, I think I'm hoping tomorrow might be a bit of a less of a manic day.
I wouldn't hold your breath on that side when you've got a demo coming up.
No, it's funny. I'm
just glad I'm not organising this one.
Saying less of a manic day. I'm looking at one word which I wrote on my page, which is Antifa, and just above that, trolls. And we've already talked about them, so I'm not going to bring them up again. But for some reason, my eyes were just drawn to those 2 words as I was sort of talking about having a less manic day tomorrow. It depends what people put up on Facebook tonight, of course, doesn't it? With regards to this.
Exactly.
This is where we need to start pulling together and more as a community, and all the groups working together as one. If you see somebody putting out an inflammatory comment to somebody, and it doesn't matter who that somebody is, everybody just get onto them. Wise these people up, teach them the error of their ways, so to speak. Otherwise, the same old people get all the flack. And it's going to turn round at the end of the day where I'll walk away, Dean will walk away, you'll walk away, Richard, because what's the point? Yeah, there's a whole host of people who know better and have been doing it for a couple of weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
And, so let them crack on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think the thing about it is, the reality is that, we've proved that we can actually change things, that we can get people to listen to us in the corridors of power. And obviously, I'm not going to go into huge details, but we've engaged with bodies that feed our views to the very heart of government, and that's a very healthy thing, because
that I've pushed out over the last 6 to 8 weeks, and feeds that Dean has pushed out over the last 6 to 8 weeks, has resulted in 4 civil serpents being moved. Those videos being shown during the sessions in the Cabinet Office. Now, they would only show it in the Cabinet Office if it proved to be a threat or something to worry about. So, and obviously it's something to worry about, which is why the civil serpents have been moved out of post. We only need one to get rid of now. He's on holiday at the moment. So we'll see how that goes. But
I mean, but I think there has been a huge change, and I mean, the reality is there's lots of different ways. What I've always said, and I still hold to this, that we need a democratic solution to the problem, because otherwise you end up going down a very, very dark road if you're not going to have a democratic political solution. Most people that talk about civil wars have never been in any conflict in their lives, and would shit their pants if there was a civil war, and run and hide under the stairs or under the kitchen table. So the reality is we've got to do this politically, but street movements are effective because the authorities have to police them, which costs them a considerable amount of money. You do then find out the people that share a common cause, and obviously with social media. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day that was saying that the speeches that me and you have done, Simon, some of them have had hundreds of thousands of views.
That's right.
I mean, I'm crap at YouTube. I mean, my YouTube channel doesn't get a huge amount of traction, but just through other people's channels. So if it goes on, Zero News or Tommy's channel or whatever, it's going to get a lot of views. A lot of people are going to hear what we're saying. And I think what we've always said has been reasonable. Okay, some people might not agree with my stand about Islamization of the UK. That's fine. If they don't agree with me, look, that's a democracy. We can talk about it. But I think what we've always said has always been reasonable, and it's always been to make the country a better place. We're not trying to destroy the country. We're trying to shame the establishment into actually doing what they should do, and shame the government and the authorities into doing what they should do.
It's all based on fact, Richard. It's not as though we sit here making stuff up.
Exactly.
We spend a lot of time researching.
Exactly.
We speak to a lot of people. We double check, triple check, quadruple check everything. We give it to independent people to check it all.
Yeah.
Before we put it out publicly. Now, we've done our due diligence, and this is what worries people. Like, I put a feed out last year, and within 20 minutes of putting that feed out, I had a phone call from the Pentagon, if you remember me telling you, saying, I can't believe you've just done that. That's been passed now through American security services to the White House because you've brought something to their attention that they weren't aware of going on with our government. And that was EU military unification. Something that had been signed off, and the Americans weren't kept informed.
Yeah, exactly.
Even Five Eyes never picked up on it. And that's now, I've been researching EU military unification now for 6 years. And it's one thing that no matter what, I'll keep doing EU military unification, even though time is rapidly running out. But like I say, I'm not ashamed to do lives and get the information out there. If they become inflammatory in the eyes of some of our so-called patriots, tough tits.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, I'm here to try and change government procedure and government policy. And if I can achieve that only once, then great.
Exactly.
I've achieved it 4 times since Christmas already. I'm well happy.
Exactly.
And I'll keep going in and plowing through.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the guys was asking there, just bringing the thing up there, he says, you know, how are we going to change things at the ballot box? I think what we've got to do, we've got to look at UKIP. Now, obviously, we basically took UKIP over to all intents and purposes until the NEC realised what was going on and booted us all out. But, you know, that was what we did then with UKIP. And I want to talk about this very, very briefly. What we did with UKIP was we married a street movement to a political party. That was basically the veterans that pushed that through, Simon. I mean, you were in that meeting to Lords with me and Gerard Batten and Lord Pearson and Lord Alexander, and you know, all the you know, the grandees of UKIP were in that meeting, and we very nearly achieved having a mainstream political party married to a working class street movement made up of football fans and veterans. And in fact, it was a done deal. And then, obviously, like I say, I'm convinced that the security services had their oar in the downfall of all that, because it was a serious threat to the established order, the Labour Conservative established order. So the point is, we can do that again, and I, you know, again, a lot of people might not agree with me, but I think Anne-Marie Waters and For Britain are the party that I'm certainly putting my weight behind. And I think Anne-Marie's, you know, she's a woman of absolute integrity in terms of, you know, what she believes. She hasn't wavered on her policies for as long as I've known her. And she's thought everything out. She's worked everything out, and she needs support and she needs help. So my answer to John is, let's get behind a party like For Britain and do what UKIP did. We need to do it a lot quicker. We need to have a viable political threat to the established order by the next general election, because we've got to stop Labour ever getting back in. And we've got
them in. 2 years ago, Richard, you and I met with Anne-Marie, didn't we?
That's right. Yeah,
that was at the time when we were trying to decide whether we were going to jump into the
UKIP or
For Britain movement for Anne-Marie, or UKIP with Gerard Batten. And all right, at the time, Anne-Marie probably wasn't that sort of too interested about it. But having been on her blog a few weeks ago, you know, and chatting to her, she's very much on side now, because
she gets it. She gets it.
The veteran holds the balance of power within the country. You know, 4 million votes can swing things quite severely one way or other, and we found that with Conservatives having a majority win earlier on this year when Boris got in.
Exactly.
And I mean, I naively was doing flick-flacks, thinking, great, all the things that we've been talking about now are going to be sorted out. Well, no, they haven't been sorted out.
No,
and then, having listened to Anne-Marie in London, in Parliament Square on the 1st of August, and seeing just how passionate she gets, because she'll write a speech, she'll learn that speech, and she'll throw it out there with so much courage and conviction. It's unbelievable. And so for my money now, Anne-Marie has to be the direction that we take, because the mainstream politics is dead in the water. They're doing absolutely nothing. And even Nigel Farage, it's all right him pottering around in his little boat around Dover. You know,
and his Range Rover, and his lovely leather-lined Range Rover going up to hotels. Yeah.
If only he threw so much passion in.
But we never forget what he said about us, you see. We never forget that he said that we were tattooed skinhead thugs.
That's exactly what he said.
And we just lost. I thought we lost you there, Simon. You know, so we're not going to forget that Farage said that about us, and Anne-Marie's never said that about us. And I must admit, Anne-Marie for me is certainly the party I'll be backing. I mean, obviously they don't organise in Northern Ireland as such, but in terms of promoting on my channel, I'll be promoting Anne-Marie and pushing that as hard as I can, because I think For Britain could do what UKIP did. because they're not extreme, they're not far right. You know, there's a lot of good people in the party, quite apart from Anne-Marie, and I think they could well be the answer to the political questions. That's just to answer a question that one of the that John Wake put up there. So that's my answer to that question.
I think so. Yeah, and like getting back to Nigel, because he really got up my nose. You know, 29th of March last year, when I called him a spineless git. Yeah, but I wasn't too, because I see him as a door kicker at the end of the day. He kicks the door in, rolls in the hand grenade, and then runs like nobody's business up the street.
Yeah.
He doesn't see anything through. He says, "Oh yeah, I made Brexit happen." No, you did not. Dominic Cummings made Brexit happen. You were just a voice with the money, the backing of somebody, some big sponsors. And as soon as Brexit happened, he ran away.
He disappeared for 2 years.
Yeah, right. And then it wasn't until Gerard disappeared off the scene, at the hands, in lots of ways, of Nigel Farage, that he came back, because Brexit actually happening was dragging its heels, and it was getting pushed further and further and further back, that he said, yeah, we'll have the vote leave, blah, blah. Came and made a noise. As soon as he got it, he disappeared off. And now, because a few immigrants are coming across, he wants to be back in the limelight again. Well, come back in the limelight as a proper politician and finish the job that you bloody started.
Exactly. I totally agree. I totally agree, Simon. Totally agree. I mean, you know, what Farage said about good patriots, many of them who joined his party while he was leader of the party and supported him, and it was cynical, and he did it purely and simply to damage UKIP so that he could launch the Brexit Party. And again, the Brexit Party is a completely, you know, it's like a junkyard dog without any teeth. You know, I mean, it barks a lot, but it can't really do much. And you know, that's why I think something solid like Anne-Marie's party, if we all get behind it, that's that. Let's talk about grooming, because obviously that's another thing that we're gonna look at.
That's going to be hit hard on Saturday, because as Dean Cumberpatch said to me earlier, you know, we as a nation, we have to surround our kids with love, because at the end of the day, if we don't look after our kids, as annoying as they can be sometimes, if we don't surround them with love, then that's our future gone. Yeah. Because we've gone through this millennial thing, and we've gone through the snowflake generation, and it's gradually got worse. You imagine what it's going to be like soon if we don't educate our kids, bring them up the right way, tell them what's wrong in the world, instead of padding them up in cotton wool. But at the same time, when it comes to the grooming side of life, we have to be really sort of forthright and fierce, and literally surround them with love, and say, "I'm never ever going to allow that to happen to you." But
I think something, you know, one of the things that I've been thinking about with this situation with the sexual exploitation of children. I've got 2 children who are grown up, and two grandchildren. My grandchildren are 5 and 9, and if anything happens to them, even if they get bullied at school, it throws me into an absolute rage, and you know, I can't express the outrage and what I want to do to anybody that's harming them or damaging them. Same with my children. I don't like anything happening to my grown-up children. But what we've got to do is we've got to look at every single little girl. I mean, when you hear the testimony of some of these girls that's been raped by these racist rape gangs, when you hear the testimony about of them, and you hear what's happened to them when they were 11, 12, 13. There's one story of a girl, I'll not say where the town is, but of a town, and she was threatening to go to the police, and they took her into this room, and they opened a chest freezer, and inside the chest freezer was the body of another child. Now, if that was my daughter, I know what I'd do. Well, what the men of England have got to do is got to think of the 1 million odd little girls that have been raped throughout this country by these racist rape gangs, these religiously motivated and racist rape gangs. And the men of England have got to think about that. That's my daughter. And if that doesn't force us to take action, and I'm not talking about doing anything illegal, but to take action and take to the streets and protest outside places where we know that this is happening, and challenge the people that we know are doing this and saying, if you don't stop doing this, we're going to take action against you. If it doesn't force men to do that, then there's something wrong with our men. We cannot sit idly by and do that. And I want to say, I mean, if there's any of these filthy nonces watching this, we're going to come for you. We're going to come for you. Our community is going to come for you. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying any more than that, because this has got to stop. It's gone on far, far too long. And to do that, to do it properly and to do it in a way that will get the necessary publicity to achieve what we want to do, we need bodies on the ground. We need people with various skill sets. But the thing about the veteran community, Simon, we've got all those skill sets. We've got we've got people that have got years of experience at doing all sorts of things that would be very, very useful if we're actually going to go after these racist rapists. And the government's got to realise that as well, that sooner or later the British public are going to stand up and say, we've had enough of this. We've had enough of our little daughters. It might not be my daughter physically, but they're daughters of England being raped by these monsters. And we're going to do something about it. And I think we need to give everybody notice that we are going to do something about that. We're not going to sit back and let it happen anymore.
It's a bit like the veteran suicides in a way, Richard, because a veteran commits suicide, we get to hear about it normally through Veterans United Against Suicide, because they keep the up-to-date figures. So, you know, Jim Wild and Jeff there, you know, we might not physically know that individual that's committed suicide, but because they're a member of the veteran community, it takes a chunk of you away with it, because we all share common experiences. If not together, we share the same experiences. We know what it's like to hold a rifle. We know what it's like to use a rifle. We know what it's like when you're having the people shout and roar at you in the barrack block of a night time, etc. You've got all these shared experiences. And every time one goes, it takes a little bit of you away and drags you down. And it's the exact same thing with these children, isn't it? Because believe it or not, we all used to be children, didn't we?
Exactly.
You know, and we know what it's like as a young kid to be scared and you know, locked in your room of a night time because you've been a little bit naughty, or like my mum used to say, go, here's 50p pocket money, son, go and put it in the magic money box under the stairs. Well, it was so magic, you never saw the money again, because that magic money box was the bloody electric meter, you know. And how many years does it take for you to catch that on? It's only minor bullying, but it's bullying and it's abuse in its own right. Yeah. And when you've got all these young kids that go missing and they're never ever found. Yeah. Kids that are dragged off and raped, sometimes multiple times. Sometimes hundreds. Sometimes, I mean, you know, some of them they can't even walk yet. Exactly. The stories are just horrific. And you know, it's probably the biggest sex crime scandal in British history. In fact, it is the biggest sex crime scandal in British history, and it's still happening now. And you know, the government is still trying to keep people quiet about it because it's not politically correct to talk about these things, to talk about the ethnic background of the people that are carrying out these rapes. It's not PC to talk about that in government circles, so it's been covered up. And this is the mindset. And one of the problems that we've got
it's not even just the government, it's the entire establishment, the civil service, the police service at the higher echelons, the social care, the social workers. All of these people are basically guilty of covering up these crimes at least, and sometimes being complicit in them. And we've got to keep going after them. We've got to go after all of them. We've got to expose them, and we've got to let people know what's going on, and keep shouting about it. And look, I mean, one of the things that is appalling, you know, people who have actually done something about this have ended up in prison, not because they were involved in it, but because they were highlighting it.
That's
People
right.
have got their children taken off them because they were highlighting it. You
That's
know,
right.
and this is what we've got to stand up, and we've got to do something about this.
And that correlates in with the veterans' children now.
Yeah.
Because it happens with you know, non-service families. If social services says their children are at risk, social services move in, grab the kids.
Yeah.
And we know that goes on. It's been going on for donkey's years.
Yeah.
Well, now it's happening with service families as well. And I was certainly naive to it. I thought, oh no, that would never happen with service families. But yeah, it is. So you've got husband and wife, 2 kids, 10 kids, whatever. If one of those parents is perceived to be a threat to the family because they have been diagnosed with PTSD or CPTSD, social services now swoop in, nick your kids.
Yep.
We've got well over 100, getting on for 200 families now that have come forward that we know of, that have lost their kids as a direct result of that issue. So the kids are under threat. All ages of kids, are under threat all over this country. And when I say for our country, I mean the United Kingdom as a whole. Well, because social services, the government, and whoever's pulling their strings, you know, as perceived, these kids can be taken into care. And of course, the government or the social services earn money, don't they? Every time they confiscate a child, they get a payoff into social services.
Yeah.
So, and then each time that child is fostered, they get another payout. If that child is adopted, another payout. Oh, there you go. 30 grand. 30 grand. How can you justify that?
It's incredible. I mean, and we've heard stories in East London of children from Christian homes getting placed in Muslim homes. We've heard stories in Northern Ireland of ex-soldiers' children getting placed in IRA strongholds. And I've heard, I mean, again, this is all anecdotal evidence, but I've heard that there's basically certainly one social worker in an area of Northern Ireland that seems to have Republican sympathies and actually specifically targeting the children of soldiers to try and get them into care. And if that's true, I mean, that's something that needs to be fully investigated. Again, I don't have it. You know, the problem is we don't have time to investigate absolutely everything that we hear. But if that's true, somebody needs to take up that chalice and find out what's going on, because I've heard that from 2 or 3 different sources now. There's a social worker in a certain area of Northern Ireland who is Republican and is actually going to ex-soldiers and trying to get their children taken into care. If it's true, who knows? Who knows?
We've had people this past few weeks turning around to us. This is me and Dean mainly. Saying, why are you getting involved in children's issues? Why aren't you sticking to veterans' issues? Well, this is the answer. The reason why we've suddenly ended up embroiled in the social services and the abuse of our children is because veterans' families are losing their children every damn day because social services deem those children to be at risk.
Exactly.
Even though they're not.
Exactly.
It happens that one of the members of family may suffer some form of mental health issue. So rather,
and he's got the mental health issue because he was protecting the social worker from terrorists and enemies that wanted to kill them.
But rather than plough money into solving the mental health issues with that individual, they'll rather snatch the kids away and then earn money from the kid when they put it up for adoption. And I think that's wrong. And it cracks me up. Anything to do with the kids cracks me up, which is why I've steered clear. But now it's right on the forefront.
When you read the documents and hear the testimonies of these children, it's and you hear the voices and you think of your own children, you think of your own children's voices when you hear these kids talking. It's horrifying. It's not just a question of what happens to the one child. That affects, it's like if somebody gets murdered in a family or commits suicide in a family, that cuts off a whole generational line. It cuts off a whole generation when somebody dies young in a family. It's exactly the same when a child's innocence is taken. That affects the child, but then it affects maybe the person that the child marries, or it affects their children. And there's such a snowball effect. It affects the parents, it affects the siblings. So it's not even just the child that's whose life's destroyed by this. It's everybody around them, and it just drags everything down. And the thing is, this is organized crime that we're talking about here with the grooming. It's serious organized crime. We're not just talking about the dirty paedophiles who act on their own. We're talking about gangs of men who are quite often involved in other crimes like heroin dealing, people trafficking, and money laundering are behind all this. And we need to blow the lid off that, and we need to show the world what's happening. And I think we can do that, and I think we should do it.
I think we can do it. There's no two ways about it, because there's too many people, not just in our country, but we concentrate on our country. There's too many people in very high up places that are covering all this up, Richard.
Absolutely.
So not only do we need to expose the individuals that are carrying crimes of abuse against the children, we need to expose the people that are covering it all up as well, because they're no better than the officer that orders the young soldier to operate the trigger and drop somebody. Do they think their hands are less bloody because they haven't got their finger on the trigger? Well, they haven't, are they? And how many times have we talked about this in the past?
Exactly.
The government, their hands are bloody for every single shooting that the soldiers have carried out in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Because without their orders, they wouldn't have been in Northern Ireland.
Exactly.
So that's no different to the people in authority that either condone or choose to cover up all the abuses that are going on with the children.
Exactly. And I mean, we know that it's been endemic in elite circles for many years. We know about what happened with Jimmy Savile at the BBC. We know that there are people sitting in the House of Lords or I don't know whether they're suspended from the House of Lords. Again, I'm not going to name them, but I think there's a Muslim peer of the realm who's basically up on charges for historical sexual abuse. There's other people who are widely rumoured to be involved in all this sort of stuff from all different backgrounds. MI5 had this situation in Kincora in Northern Ireland in the 1970s and 80s, where they were running a children's home, or they were running agents in the children's home, and basically blackmailing politicians because they'd been doing whatever to the children. And again, senior Republicans, senior IRA men have been named as being involved in child sexual abuse. And in fact, the IRA seems to be rife with paedophiles. It seems to have an endemic problem with rapists in its number. So this is not just a problem that we're talking about that's happened with Pakistani Muslims. This is a lot broader, and the organized sexual exploitation of children is a lot bigger problem, it seems, than any of us would have thought before we started this, Simon, because we never thought about these things before we started.
I never knew.
No.
You know, it's something I always close my mind to, but now you just can't. It's too. And a lot of this is going to be highlighted on Saturday, because on speaking, we've got. I'm going to talk about military stuff.
Yep.
You're going to talk about whatever you're going to talk about, Richard. Alan Craig from Hearts of Oak, he's going to be speaking.
He'll probably talk about the Rochdale 3, I would think.
Yeah. Dean Cumberpatch, he's going to speak.
Yeah.
You know, I've got so much time for Dean, it's unbelievable, because he's so passionate about everything, especially when it comes to families and children.
Yeah.
You know, he's a very emotional man, despite his size and looks. Danny Roscoe, hopefully, is going to come down and speak, but need to just confirm that. Katie Jane is coming to speak.
Yeah.
She looks after, I think, Children's Matter. I think, the group. Sharon Binks is coming to speak. The Blair twins, they're going to speak. And the little veteran is coming as well to speak about immigration, of course, and what's going on at the channel. Now that list probably isn't exhaustive yet. That's there's still people sort of bouncing on. So because I have a habit of scribbling stuff on different pages, and I have to scroll through then to find all the bits of information that I've scrolled down on different phone calls. So I would say Saturday has the potential to be a huge success, to bring a lot of issues up to the fore that should have been at the forefront for a long, long time, Richard, but just haven't been, because other things have overtaken them, or they've seen as being perhaps more important, when actually they're as important, and in some cases perhaps more.
Well, I mean, and I think the reality is, getting back to the very beginning of the feed, we talked about, the left opposing us and so on and so forth. Well, really, from what you said about Dean, and I know your motivation as well, Simon, I think the reality is that we're all motivated by love, as soppy as that may sound. We're motivated by love for our children and our grandchildren, and then we broaden that out and we say, well, every single child in this country we're going to treat as our children in terms of what we want to get done to protect them. Then we're motivated by love for the veteran community. When you think about Dennis Hutchings, Simon, that could be you or I standing where Dennis.
Exactly that. Like I was down in Plymouth last week.
Yeah.
And I met up with Dennis.
Yeah.
And he'd just come off his dialysis and spoke to his lawyers and his barrister, and he's so strong. He's 78. He's so strong in the way that he stands there and takes all this abuse, and that's what it is, abuse. I really don't know how he does it, because he's fed up with the whole thing. He wants the whole thing to go away. But for as long as people are battling with him, he's going to stay in the fight. He's not going to back down. He's not suddenly now going to turn around and appease Sinn Féin or our government or anybody else by saying anything different to what he's been saying for the last nearly 50 years. And you can see when you're speaking to him one-to-one, and like we've been speaking to him regular now, Richard, for over 3 years, and you can see the passion in him, and you can hear the passion in him. And it really gets to me. It makes me really emotional when I'm chatting to him, because you expect him to be sort of the emotional one, but it's not that way at all. He's saying it as it is, and it's me listening to him that gets all emotional and kind of tongue-tied over it in a way. So what you've said there about, it's all about love of your common man, woman and child is is 100% right.
Yeah,
100%
right. And love for country as well, Simon. I mean, it's the whole thing, and this whole idea that our country is, it's what I mean. Ricky Doolan, introduced me to the phrase inclusive patriotism, and that comes really back to the Commonwealth soldiers again. That what I want to stand, people I want to stand next to are people who love our country because of its values, its Christian heritage, its heritage of democracy, its heritage of ending slavery, its heritage of fighting against tyranny for 1,000 years since we got conquered by the Normans. Once we threw their shackle off, we've been fighting against tyranny since the Civil War, really, and we're still fighting against tyranny. The problem is that the tyranny is now flipping, and the establishment are now becoming the tyrants, and they're forgetting about British heritage, British history, and British culture. And so it's motivated by a love for country as well. That isn't a racist or a jingoistic love. It's a love because we know that Britain is a great country, and it's a great country because when you look at history, we've done great things. Yes,
you're
right,
Richard. And this is what annoys me when people, I'm not talking about these illegals that are floating over on their rubber boats now, but when you've got people in your face all the time talking about, and BLM, the far left, talking about racism and how bad and how rife it is here in the UK. What a complete load of bollocks. Because
absolutely, that's the best way to put it. Totally.
If you can find me one single individual that's had their DNA done and is found to be 100% British, whatever that is, then great. We all know they're not there. Nobody exists because the whole country was built on immigration.
Well, I mean, exactly. I mean,
Anglo-Saxon. Well, exactly. The Saxons came from Germany, exactly. And the Angles come from Scandinavia. Exactly. So Anglo-Saxon Britain is based on immigration.
And if you go right back to the Celts, if we believe what the anthropologists tell us, the Celts came from somewhere around the Middle East, somewhere sort of, Iraq, Iran, Central Asia, that sort of direction. So the original sort of British inhabitants originally came from Iran, Iraq, that sort of area originally, if what they say is true about the Celts. So I mean, if you go back far enough, everybody's an immigrant.
What we now know as the Middle East.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think that
when you think the Celts settled in Ireland, some of the smaller islands, plus what is now Devon and Cornwall.
Exactly. Wales, Scotland.
Handful you get when you come on your boat from the Middle East.
Exactly.
I'm sure they didn't walk.
Now, but here's the thing. I mean, the reality is that mix that we've had for over 1,000 years, and obviously the immigration situation was pretty settled from probably after the Norman conquest, 1066. The whole population of the UK was pretty settled for that whole period, religiously, and then obviously politics. We know their whole history. Politics developed, Magna Carta, and all that sort of stuff, and then the Civil War. But the reality is that when people come to our country that don't share our culture and our culture and identity, and don't want to integrate and want to impose their culture onto our culture, then that to me is completely wrong. Whereas if somebody comes into our country and wants to assimilate and join with us and support the United Kingdom, I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. And that's the difference between, I think, what we believe and what the ethno-nationalists would believe, that think that everybody's got to be the same strange shade of pink to be British. There's plenty of people with the same skin color as me who absolutely loathe this country with a passion. They want to destroy the United Kingdom and they hate it. And I would rather share common cause with a black man who loves this country, loves the Union flag, wants to stand and defend our country because he's a veteran or because he's just covered himself in British history and culture, rather than a lefty who hates the country and wants to destroy the United Kingdom and hates everything we stand for. So I think that's where I stand on this issue. But going to the race thing, I'm sick of people calling Britain a racist country. I'm not just talking about black people doing that, I'm about white people as well, who are basically apologists for Black Lives Matter, TV presenters, celebrities, accusing the British people of racism. That is such a heinous and wicked accusation, because I've been involved in what's supposed to be a far-right movement for the past 3 years, and we both know it's not far-right. And the very few racists that are out there separate themselves from us and won't have anything to do with us, because I believe we represent the mainstream. I believe we represent mainstream opinion, which is tolerant, wants a safe place for our children, wants to live in a country that is not dominated by Islam or dominated by communism or dominated by fascism. We don't want anything extreme. We want Britain to be the moderate, peaceful, God-fearing country that it once was. And the allegation of racism that's thrown against us and thrown against most of the British working class, especially the white working class, is absolutely disgusting and heinous. It needs to be called out. And it's the media elite that are doing it. It's the political elite that are doing it. It's the establishment that are doing it. We did one of our demos in London, and it went very badly wrong for the police and for Antifa. But some policemen got injured, and Antifa basically ran away out of town, terrified. And I said to the police liaison guy, I said, I want to speak to the guy that was in charge of policing on that day. I said, because that was handled so badly. Thankfully, nobody got killed, but somebody could have got killed. And it's on the police because of what the police did. So anyway, I got a meeting with this very senior police officer to put my concerns. And he said to me, oh, the DFLA weren't even at the demonstration, incidentally, but he said to me, the DFLA are racist. This is a senior police officer in the Met. And I said, well, that's very interesting. I said, what evidence have you got for that? Oh, well, I've seen some of their social media posts. No. I said, you haven't. Not from the leadership of the DFLA. I says, there's 60, 70, 100,000 people in the DFLA. I says, has there been an odd racist tweet on their wall? Possibly. But I know they police it very heavily, so I'm finding that hard to believe. I said, but I can tell you something. I'm sitting opposite a man who represents an organization that is on record by a public inquiry by a high court judge as being institutionally racist. You're not going to tell me that our organizations and our street movements are racist when the organization that you represent is on record has been called racist. And of course, he didn't really have an answer to that, and the meeting ended pretty quickly after that, as sure you can imagine. But that's what we're up against, Simon. It's this.
Very, very much so.
Yeah.
Drive me and everybody else, I'm sure, bonkers. Did
exactly.
You see Kate Burley today? You know that?
I can't watch her. I can't watch her.
Kay Burley. She really gets up my nose because she creeps around people with money and influence whenever she's interviewing them in the mornings. And and if they turn around and say, "Oh, I've got an open day at my big house," or something like that, or I'm having a party, she always sort of says, "Oh, am I invited? Oh, if you want to come along, Kay." She's all there about. Yeah. It's all about show for her. Well, I'm glad to say I haven't seen her on Sky TV for a little while, but she was there advertising on Sky TV today, saying that she's got a new breakfast show that starts on the 1st of September, and she actually states on the advertisement, if it's worthy of telling, if it's a story worthy of telling, we are going to tell it on breakfast news. And I thought, well, we need to now contact her and remind her of that issue.
Yeah.
On the first, because the only news that they ever give out, like I used to always watch Sky over precedents of other news channels because they seem to be more sort of middle of the road.
Yeah.
Whereas they're even going towards the left now.
Dreadful. Terrible.
We need to perhaps all of us get on Kay Burley's back and annoy her through email, through phone, or it was worthy of news, you would tell it.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely right.
News, all the hoax news, as Donald Trump would say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the problem is we don't have an independent media. Even the Daily Mail's gone left wing. I mean, it's, you never thought you'd see the day that Daily Mail turned into a left wing rag, but it is. So we're in a situation where we don't have a national broadcaster that is impartial. They're all left wing. And that's why the whole idea of doing what we're doing now is so important. And we've got to fight to keep these, when I say fight to keep these channels, we've actually, unfortunately, got to self-censor on these channels, on YouTube and Facebook. Because if we say everything that we really think, we'll lose our channels and we won't be able to get anything. So we've got to be very, very careful. And that's very sad, because the reality is some of the stuff that I said 2 years ago when I first started out on this, I just couldn't say it now, because I'd lose all my social media. I've already lost Facebook, but I'd lose, everything else that I've got left. So, and this is why this is so sinister. And we've got to fight against this, and we've got to get these demonstrations listened to. And like you say, we maybe missed a trick in the early days. We could have probably engaged with the mainstream media in a bit of a better way. I don't know if you're on the bus when that guy came from the BBC, came on the bus at one of the FLA marches, and he was thrown off unceremoniously. So that was wrong. That shouldn't have happened, because he was there to report it, and we didn't get any press coverage because he was basically told to sling us up, which was unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, that's where we're at. Well, Si, we'll wrap this up. Is there anything else you want to say before we dive off? I think we've had a good crack at most.
I think the only thing I'd like to say really is if there's anybody there that's sort of teetering on the edge, shan't I attend on Saturday? If it's at all possible in any way, shape or form for you to get there, I know money's always an issue. And I know geography is always an issue. But if you can make it to Nottingham, fantastic to see it. Please make yourself known to us when you're there, so we can actually put a face to the name. If you're unable to make Nottingham and there's something else in your local area and it fits in with your routine, or it fits in with your available money, let's say cash flow, then please do get along and support that as well, because as long as it's something to do with patriotism and it's something to do with what we've been talking about for the last 90 minutes, then we won't mind that at all. If you're going to go and perhaps not attend one of ours and you're going to go and attend some sort of leftist thing, then I would ask you to think about it between now and Saturday, and perhaps change your political belief a little bit, because you really don't want to go down the left.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, people from, obviously our crowd is predominantly white. It always has been, but we've had a lot of people that have been quite high profile in the movement from different ethnic minorities. I think of Mo Fayez, Gurkha Singh, Mike Howell, and others, Don Gibson. And I would like to see, I think there was a call went out to ask black people to oppose our march. I'd like to invite the black people of Nottingham to come and attend our march as participants and join with us in standing for children from all backgrounds that are being abused and are being marginalized, standing for the veterans that have protected you and kept and made Britain a safe country for you to live in, and just standing for our country and being proud of our country. So I'd like to invite the black community of Nottingham. I hope you don't mind me doing this, Simon, just to come to the demo. I think there is quite a sizable black community in Nottingham.
I think there's quite a few coming anyway, because Dean grew up in Nottingham, and he grew up with a lot of people that are in the the BAME community,
Yeah.
and they're all coming along, and they're all 100% on side. And why shouldn't they be at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're all the same.
Exactly.
I don't know about you, Richard, but colour has never been an issue for me.
No, it's not. It hasn't been.
It probably wasn't until the Black Lives Matter movement suddenly cracked in, and they started trying to rewrite history, pull down statues and things like that, including statues of people that did away with slavery.
Yeah.
Highlighted slavery back in the day.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until that movement started that I noticed a lot of other people coming up to me, either through social media or face to face, and saying, race was never an issue to me, colour was never an issue to me, but now it's been highlighted by BLM, I'm noticing it more.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely, Simon. Absolutely. And I think this, you know, I've two things with BLM. One of them is I don't believe it's truly representative of the black people I know. Now, I don't know thousands of black people. I can't. It's all anecdotal. I can't say that my take on it is right, because most of them would be ex-military guys or people I went to school with that I haven't seen for years. You know, so you know, maybe I've got this totally wrong, but I'm in touch with quite a lot of black guys as a result of this, because I want to chat to and engage with as many people as I can. And I think it's safe to say that, you know, we share the same humor, we share the same, you know, way of thinking, you know, and I think that's fair. And, you know, these are guys that I didn't know before this. And one of the guys was actually involved in Black Lives Matter years ago. He's not involved in it anymore. But, you know, when you talk to the guy, you know, he's got a few views that I don't agree with, and I scream and shout and swear at him, and he'll scream and shout and swear back at me because we don't agree. But at the end of the day, that's the way to do it, is, you know, and that's why I think, okay, yes, you can have open and public debates and that sort of thing, but really they don't actually achieve as much as actually engaging on a very personal one-on-one level with people and basically being able to get inside people's heads. So I think what I'm trying to say is, I don't think that this craziness that's coming from this group calling itself Black Lives Matter represents black people. I just don't believe it does. And I think a lot of people have been hoodwinked. It's like when we first started this time, and most people in our group were not politically savvy, were not you know, abreast of everything that was going on, but they had a great passion for change. And I think probably what's happened with a lot of people, that even the younger people that are supporting Black Lives Matter, and I'm not saying this to be patronizing, I don't think they genuinely understand what Black Lives Matter is and what they stand for, because they're not about black lives. They're about pushing a Marxist, cultural Marxist communist agenda on the UK, destroying the police force, destroying the family, getting people to pay reparation. And I'd be horrified if most black people believe that. I've got it really badly wrong, and you know, we've got a big problem. But I just don't believe that they do.
I think Black Lives Matter as a movement, I think there was actually a need for it at one point, in certain areas around. And I think that as the organisation sort of got going, and I'm talking about years ago now, it was a good thing. It highlighted an issue that was perhaps overlooked by many people. But that BLM movement has now been hijacked.
Well, do you know what, Sam? I'll be honest with you. BLM, from its very inception, was communist and Marxist. So on that one, they weren't hijacked. They actually started off as a Marxist organisation. I think what's happening is
or more liberal, because we had liberal back in the day, didn't we?
Well, I'm thinking, you know, the Black Lives Matter, that, you know, the organisation started in the States, I think about 2014, 2015, somewhere around that, by two Marxist women. I think one of them had a terrorist conviction at some point. They started in the United States, as far as I remember. So they've always had this Marxist agenda. I think what happened was people didn't realise that, and they got involved. Do you know what I mean? I think that was the issue with the whole thing. And it's the same in the UK. If you read their publicity page, it's just pure communism, you know. So it's nothing to do with black people. It's basically, you know, it's very, very strange.
Back there, asking, could I prefer meeting point and times?
Good idea. Let's do that.
So it's Saturday, this coming Saturday, which is the 22nd of August, 2020. So if you're watching on Catch Up and it's 2021, you've missed it. The meeting point is somewhere between 11 and midday, so 11 and 12 o'clock, at the BBC in Nottingham, which is quite near the railway station and the Jury's Inn Hotel. And then we're planning on leaving there around about midday and walking roughly a mile through to the Brian Clough statue, which is in the Market Square at the end of Queen Street and King Street. I haven't got a postcode. The postcode that I plumbed in yesterday put me many miles off centre. So it's King Street, Queen Street, where they meet up at the bottom is the Brian Clough Memorial statue, and that's where the speeches are going to be. And the speeches are running from 1 o'clock p.m., so 1300 hours, through to 1500 hours, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So 2 hours. If we run over a little bit, run over a little bit. Yeah,
exactly.
So that's it, really, in a nutshell. There is a Rolling Thunder going on. They've got their RVs already, and they're going to basically plough in and around Nottingham because there are a lot of road closures, funny enough. Some of them are bona fide roadworks. Some of the one-way streets have been turned into two-way streets, etc. So the bikes will be there. They'll get to us somewhere along the line. But for the foot soldiers, of which I'll be one, Dean will be one, BBC between 11 a.m. and midday, and then we'll set off about midday and walk to Brian Clough statue for the speeches.
Sounds like a plan. Well, folks, listen. Thanks for persevering. That was when me and Simon do a feed, we do it properly. We don't skimp on time or information. So hope everyone enjoyed it. And listen, get to Nottingham on Saturday at 11 o'clock, and we'll see you all there. And again, Simon, thanks for joining me. It's been a while since I did a live feed, so it's good to get back onto the. Yeah, see you all on Saturday, guys. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Look after each other.